The galaxy's grand summit was in full swing, with representatives from powerful civilizations across the stars gathered in one place. Alien species from every corner of the universe stood proudly in their ornate uniforms, exchanging smiles and glances, each convinced of their superiority. They had every reason to believe in their own greatness. After all, they had mastered the stars long before Earth had even learned to make fire. As the humans entered the grand hall, they could feel the weight of the gazes upon them. The other species exchanged quiet chuckles, their eyes full of disbelief. The humans, dressed in simple attire, were clearly out of place in this room filled with high-ranking diplomats and seasoned warriors from civilizations that spanned entire galaxies. The humans were treated as an afterthought, their presence nothing more than a formality. Liam was just 12 years old, but he already understood the atmosphere. His father, a scientist and one of Earth's few representatives, had brought him along to the summit. He stood near the back of the room, his heart racing as he looked around at the other species. Some of them had limbs that stretched for meters, while others had features so alien that Liam could barely make sense of them. Their eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and their bodies shimmered with colors that seemed impossible to describe. Yet, none of them paid any real attention to the humans. The meeting was beginning. Liam's father took a seat beside the human delegation, while Liam quietly sat in the back, observing the room. The aliens gathered around a large holographic table that displayed the galaxy's map, showing the vast territories controlled by each species. There were murmurs of approval as each race proudly pointed out their dominance, their voice booming across the room as they shared tales of their military victories and technological marvels. Then one of the delegates, a tall and regal being with translucent skin, spoke up in a calm but firm voice. "And now, Earth," the delegate said, turning their gaze toward the humans. "It is time to hear from your representatives." There was a short pause before the room erupted into quiet laughter. The sound was soft but unmistakable. Liam could feel the sting of it. His father, though well-respected back on Earth, was nothing more than a small part of this massive galactic community. A human diplomat stood up to speak, offering polite words about Earth's recent advancements, but no one was listening. The aliens exchanged glances, some shaking their heads, others smiling with thinly veiled mockery. Liam bit his lip, trying to hold back the wave of frustration that threatened to overtake him. He had always been proud of Earth and its people. Humans had done things that no one had expected, even landing on the moon long before some of these alien species had ever thought to try. Yet here they were, dismissed as insignificant, a mere footnote in the grand story of the galaxy. As the humans continued to speak, a group of alien delegates, led by a powerful-looking being with scales that shimmered like polished metal, began to laugh openly. Their leader leaned forward, speaking in a language Liam didn't understand, but the tone was unmistakable: mockery. The others joined in, their laughter echoing across the room. Liam's hands clenched into fists at his sides. The laughter grew louder, and Liam could feel his face growing hot. He looked at his father, who was keeping a calm, composed expression, but Liam could see the disappointment in his eyes. It was clear that the galaxy had already decided what Earth was, a small, insignificant planet with no future in the stars. Liam had always been told that humans were capable of greatness. He'd read stories about Earth's past heroes, the explorers, the scientists, the thinkers who had pushed boundaries and made incredible discoveries. But in this room, surrounded by beings that had lived for centuries, it seemed like Earth's future didn't matter. He couldn't help himself. He stood up abruptly, his chair scraping loudly against the floor. The room went silent as all eyes turned to him. Liam's voice was steady, though his heart was pounding in his chest. "Why do you laugh?" he asked, his voice loud enough for everyone to hear. "You think we're nothing. But we're not." There was a brief silence before the laughter started again, this time even louder than before. Liam's stomach twisted. He felt small, powerless. The alien leader with the shining scales, still chuckling, finally spoke. "A child speaks," he said, his voice dripping with condescension. "Your people are nothing more than children playing at greatness. You will never be able to compete with the power of civilizations that have ruled the stars for eons." Liam's chest tightened with anger, but something inside him refused to back down. He turned toward the exit, making his way out of the grand hall without saying another word. Outside, the stars twinkled in the vast emptiness, reminding him that beyond this room, there was an entire universe full of possibilities. He clenched his fists again, his mind racing. Earth may have been laughed at today, but he knew one thing: the galaxy had made a mistake they would soon regret. Liam's mind already began to race, dreaming of ways to show the galaxy the true power of Earth. It wasn't just about technology, it was about humanity itself. The galaxy may have underestimated Earth, but they had no idea what humans were capable of when pushed too far. And Liam had a feeling that the galaxy had just made the biggest mistake of all. Liam sat in his small room, surrounded by scattered books, papers, and tools. It was late into the night, and the only sound was the steady ticking of an old clock on the wall. His parents were asleep, unaware of what their son was planning. The galaxy had laughed at Earth, but Liam was determined to prove them wrong. He wouldn't allow humanity to be dismissed as weak, not when he knew that Earth's greatest strength lay in its people, their creativity, their courage, and most of all, their determination. Liam's mind raced as he stared at the blueprint in front of him. His fingers traced over the lines and symbols on the paper, each one representing a piece of the warship he was designing. It wasn't just any ship. It was going to be something no one had ever seen before. He was combining everything he had learned from his favorite books, his favorite science experiments, and the vast knowledge available on Earth. The warship would be a marvel, a true testament to the ingenuity of humankind. He knew it wouldn't be easy. The galaxy's civilizations had advanced far beyond Earth's capabilities. But that was exactly why he believed in his idea. Humans had always been underestimated. The first humans to land on the moon were laughed at too, but they did it. Humanity had always pushed forward, even when the odds seemed impossible. Liam's idea was simple but brilliant. He was going to build a warship using the most advanced energy source Earth had ever discovered, a power source so clean and efficient that it could rival the energy of the stars themselves. He had read about it in a scientific journal his father had kept hidden in their library. It was called quantum energy, and if harnessed correctly, it could fuel an entire fleet of ships. But no one had figured out how to control it yet. Liam, however, believed that if he could combine his knowledge of basic physics with his creative thinking, he could make it work. Over the next few days, Liam dedicated himself to his project. His parents noticed his growing obsession, but said nothing, knowing their son's brilliant mind. They had always supported him, even if they didn't fully understand what he was trying to do. His mother would make him sandwiches for lunch, and his father would often bring him books on engineering or space travel. But Liam was focused. He didn't need any distractions. All he needed was the idea, and he had it. He began gathering materials. He found old, unused parts from machines in the garage, and slowly, piece by piece, the ship began to take shape. It wasn't much to look at yet, just a rough skeleton of metal and wires. But Liam could see the potential. Each part was carefully designed to be lightweight yet incredibly strong, using a combination of Earth's best alloys and Liam's own innovations. He even found a way to incorporate a rudimentary cloaking system, inspired by the stories of stealth technology he had read about in history books. Liam's friends didn't know what to make of his sudden obsession. They thought he was just playing with toys in his basement, like any other child. But Liam wasn't playing. He was building the future. One night, after many long hours of work, the ship was finally ready for its first test. Liam took a step back and admired what he had created. It was small, only about the size of a car, but to him, it was the most beautiful thing in the world. He had poured all his knowledge, creativity, and determination into this ship, and now it was time to see if it would work. Liam ran a few quick checks on the controls, making sure everything was in place. The quantum energy cell he had developed hummed softly, radiating a faint glow. He had no idea if it would work, but he wasn't afraid. He knew that failure was just another step toward success. His father sighed and leaned forward. "I agree, but we have to be careful. This ship is more powerful than anything we've seen before, and it could change everything. We need to think about the consequences. We don't want to start something we're not ready for." Liam's mind raced. He understood the caution in his father's words, but he couldn't help but feel that this was the moment Earth had been waiting for. They had been underestimated for too long. If he could show the galaxy the power of Earth, everything would change. After some discussion, they agreed that the next step would be to show the world's leaders what Liam had built. His father, using his connections, arranged a meeting with some of the top scientists and diplomats from around the world. They would all gather to see the ship, to understand its capabilities, and to decide what to do next. The day of the presentation arrived, and Liam was both nervous and excited. He stood before a crowd of the world's most powerful people, all of them watching him with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. They didn't know what to expect from a 12-year-old boy, but Liam had a plan. He wasn't just going to show them a ship, he was going to show them what humanity could do when it wasn't afraid to reach for the stars. He walked them through the design of the ship, explaining how it worked and what made it unique. The world's scientists marveled at the quantum energy core, amazed that it could be harnessed in such a way. The diplomats exchanged glances, some with admiration, others with caution. But it wasn't just the technology that caught their attention. It was the idea behind it. This was more than just a ship. It was proof that Earth had something to offer the galaxy. As Liam finished his presentation, he could see the change in the room. The skepticism was still there, but it was mixed with a new sense of respect. For the first time, the people of Earth were being taken seriously. Then something unexpected happened. The world's leaders began to ask questions. They were curious, eager to learn more. Some of them even offered suggestions for improvements or ways to collaborate. For the first time, they weren't treating Earth like an afterthought. They were listening, and that to Liam was the first step toward proving the galaxy wrong. He had shown them the potential of Earth. Now, the galaxy would have to listen. The days that followed Liam's presentation were filled with a mix of excitement and uncertainty. The leaders of Earth had seen the warship, and many were impressed. Some even offered resources to help improve and mass-produce the ship, but Liam knew that this was just the beginning. The hard part was yet to come. He had proven Earth's potential to the world, but now the bigger challenge awaited: the galaxy. Liam sat in his room late one evening, staring at his workbench. His warship was still in the garage, parked safely away from prying eyes. He had been careful not to reveal too much about it, understanding that the more people knew, the more likely it was that the galaxy would take notice. His father had warned him about the risks, and even though Liam was determined, he understood there were serious consequences if the wrong people learned of the ship. It wasn't long before the message came. The first contact from an alien civilization was nothing like Liam had expected. His father had warned him that humanity's new technology could either be the key to joining the stars or the spark that ignited a conflict. The message was broadcast across the globe, appearing on every screen, in every home, and in every language. The voice that spoke wasn't threatening, but it carried with it a weight that sent shivers down Liam's spine. It was a deep, almost mechanical tone that echoed in every corner of the planet. To the people of Earth, the voice began, "We are the Zorath. We have received your message and your creation. While your technology is impressive, you must understand that you are not the only species in the galaxy with such capabilities. Do not mistake your achievement for a sign of dominance. We will be watching you." Liam's heart raced. He sat frozen, staring at the screen as the message ended. The Zorath, a species that had never shown any interest in Earth, had now taken notice. and they were warning humanity. He quickly glanced at his father, who stood beside him in the room, equally stunned by the message. "What does this mean?" Liam asked, his voice trembling. His father took a deep breath. "It means they're watching us now. We've caught their attention, and we need to be careful. The galaxy isn't as welcoming as we hoped." Liam's mind was racing. This was it. The moment he had been waiting for had arrived, but it wasn't the welcoming handshake he had imagined. The Zoreth weren't offering peace. They were issuing a warning. The following days were filled with heated debates between Earth's leaders. Some wanted to take the Zoreth message seriously, fearing that humanity had just stepped into a much larger conflict. Others believed that Earth should respond boldly, showing the galaxy that it wasn't afraid. Liam listened to the discussions, feeling a growing sense of responsibility. It wasn't just about the warship anymore. It was about humanity's place in the galaxy. His ship had put Earth on the map, but now humanity had to decide how to handle the attention it was getting. In one of the meetings, a general spoke up. "The Zoreth may have warned us, but we can't back down. This ship, this technology, it's ours. If we show them we're not afraid, they may think twice before underestimating us." Liam's father, a respected diplomat, countered, "It's not just about strength. The Zoreth are far more advanced than us. If we provoke them, we might find ourselves facing enemies we're not prepared to fight." The debate was endless, but Liam could see the tension growing. There was no easy answer. No one knew how the Zoreth, or any of the other alien civilizations, would respond to Earth's new presence. But there was one thing Liam knew for certain. He wasn't going to back down. The ship he had built wasn't just for defense. It was a symbol of humanity's potential to reach the stars and hold its own. If Earth had to prove itself, then Liam was ready to help lead the charge. After a few more tense days, the world leaders finally agreed on a course of action. They would send a message to the Zoreth, a message that would show humanity wasn't intimidated. They would request a meeting, a chance to speak and negotiate peacefully, to make it clear that Earth wasn't looking for war. Liam's heart pounded as he watched the announcement on television. His ship was the key to this message. If the Zoreth accepted, they would know that Earth had come into its own. If they rejected it, there could be no going back. The message was sent. As the days passed, the world waited in tense silence. Every corner of Earth was filled with anticipation. What would the Zoreth do? Would they accept the invitation for peace, or would they reject humanity's offer and consider Earth a threat? Liam spent hours in his workshop, making small adjustments to the warship, making sure it was ready for whatever might come next. He didn't know what the future held, but he knew that whatever happened, Earth had made its mark. They weren't the underdogs anymore. They were players in the galaxy. And as Liam looked up at the stars through his bedroom window, he couldn't help but feel that this was only the beginning. Whatever response the Zoreth, or any other alien race, might have, Earth was no longer a forgotten world. It was a force to be reckoned with. The galaxy would never laugh at Earth again. The days after Earth's message to the Zoreth felt like a never-ending wait. Tension filled the air as the world's leaders anxiously watched every screen, every communication device, hoping for a response. Liam couldn't escape the constant buzz of news and rumors. Every time he walked into a room, someone was talking about the galaxy, about the warship, or about what might happen next. The invitation to meet with the Zoreth had been sent, but the silence that followed was deafening. For a while, it felt like Earth's message had gone unanswered, and people began to wonder if they had made a mistake. But Liam had not given up hope. He knew that if Earth could stand its ground, the galaxy would eventually have to listen. Then, one morning, everything changed. Liam was sitting in his room, working on a new set of plans for the warship's upgrades, when his father knocked and walked in, his face serious. "Liam, you need to see this," he said, his voice tense. Liam followed his father into the living room, where a large screen was broadcasting a message. The same deep, mechanical voice from the Zoreth's previous communication echoed through the room. "People of Earth, we have received your invitation. We understand your desire for peace, and we have decided to meet with you. But understand this, we will not tolerate any further attempts at building power without the knowledge of the larger Galactic Council. A representative from our people will arrive to speak with your leaders. Prepare yourselves." Liam's heart raced. The Zoreth had responded, but there was something different about this message. They weren't threatening. They weren't dismissive. They were offering a chance for dialogue, but they were also making it clear that Earth's actions were being closely watched. It was a chance, a fragile chance, but it was enough. The world leaders quickly gathered to prepare for the meeting with the Zoreth's representative. There was excitement, but also a sense of fear. No one knew what to expect. The Zoreth had the power to change everything. If they decided Earth wasn't worthy of being part of the galaxy's larger community, the consequences could be catastrophic. Liam's father, who had been a key figure in arranging Earth's response, was tasked with representing Earth in the meeting. Liam had been a part of the preparation, helping with the technical details of the worship, but he wasn't allowed in the room with the diplomats. He could only wait, hope, and watch as history unfolded. The meeting was set to take place at the United Nations headquarters, where representatives from the world's nations had gathered. The Zoreth would send one of their highest-ranking officials to speak. The pressure was immense. This could determine whether Earth would be seen as a true member of the galactic community, or if it would be shut out forever. Liam sat nervously at home, pacing around his room as the hours ticked by. The message from the Zoreth had been clear. If Earth didn't handle this properly, there could be consequences. He couldn't stop thinking about what his worship might mean. It was a powerful weapon, but it was also a symbol of humanity's strength, intelligence, and resolve. This was their moment to prove they belonged. At last, the news came. The Zoreth representative had arrived. The media was filled with images of the alien ambassador, who was tall, dark-skinned, and covered in intricate armor. The alien's eyes glowed with an intensity that made the entire world hold its breath. He stood before the gathered leaders, his presence commanding and powerful. Liam's father was among the first to speak, and the room fell silent as he addressed the representative. The diplomatic language was careful and precise, as Earth's leaders worked to make it clear that they sought peace and cooperation, not conflict. "We understand your concerns," Liam's father said, his voice steady. "But Earth is not looking to dominate. We only want to be part of the galactic community, to work alongside others, and to contribute our knowledge." The Zoreth representative listened in silence, his glowing eyes never leaving the group of leaders. When he finally spoke, his voice was calm, but his words carried weight. "Your technology is impressive, Earthlings. But understand this. The Galactic Council has rules. The creation of new weapons, new power sources, must be overseen. You are not yet part of the Council, and your actions have raised concerns. We do not trust that you are ready for the responsibility that comes with such power." Liam's heart sank. The Zoreth were not going to hand Earth an easy victory. It was clear that there would be no instant acceptance. But then, the unexpected happened. The Zoreth representative turned slightly, his gaze softening as he spoke again. "However, there are those within our people who believe in the potential of Earth. A select group of civilizations are willing to offer you a chance to prove yourselves. There will be tests. If you succeed, if you show you can handle the responsibility of your technology, you may join us. But the road ahead will not be easy. Prove yourselves, and we may consider you allies. Fail, and you will face the consequences." The room went quiet. This wasn't a defeat. It wasn't a victory either, but it was an opening. A chance. Liam watched the broadcast from home, his heart pounding in his chest. Earth was being given a chance to prove itself. The galaxy hadn't rejected them completely. There was a path forward. As he listened to the representatives discuss the next steps, Liam felt a growing sense of hope. This wasn't just about his worship. It was about humanity showing that it could rise to the occasion. that it could meet the challenges of the stars and be a force for good. The path ahead would be hard, but Liam knew that Earth had taken its first step toward a new future, one where humanity's place in the galaxy was no longer in doubt. The days after the meeting with the Zorith representative were filled with anticipation and uncertainty. The opportunity to prove humanity's worth to the galaxy was a heavy burden, but it was a chance Earth couldn't afford to waste. The Zorith had laid out a series of tests to determine whether humanity was ready to be part of the Galactic Council. These tests would test Earth's strength, wisdom, and ability to work with others. They weren't just about technology. This was about the heart of humanity. Liam could hardly contain his excitement. The entire world was watching. The fate of Earth's place in the galaxy now rested on a series of trials that no one had ever faced before. His warship, the symbol of Earth's technological might, was ready, but it wasn't just a machine. It was a reflection of humanity's determination and creativity. It was more than just power. It was a statement. The first test was simple in theory but difficult in practice. Cooperation. The Galactic Council had chosen an ancient space station located on the edge of known space as the location for the test. It was a relic from an old era, long abandoned and falling apart. The task was clear. Humanity, along with representatives from other species, had to restore the station to working order. But it wasn't as simple as just fixing a few broken systems. The station was on the verge of collapse, and its surrounding environment was filled with dangerous hazards, including electrical storms and unstable gravity fields. The station was a symbol of the past, a place that held secrets from long before any of the modern civilizations had risen. The Council had chosen it because it wasn't just about building or repairing. It was about understanding the past and finding ways to work together. The species selected to help Earth in this trial were those that had a history with the station and its creators. They didn't just have technology, they had ancient knowledge that could be vital in completing the task. Liam stood with his father, watching as the first wave of ships entered the system. The Zorith were there, of course, as well as other species who had long been part of the galactic community. The atmosphere was tense, and no one knew what to expect. Earth was still seen as an unknown. Even with their impressive technology, many wondered if humanity could really rise to the occasion. Liam's father had been selected as part of the team to oversee Earth's participation in the task. Liam, though young, was allowed to be there, watching from a safe distance as Earth's representatives gathered with the others. The pressure was overwhelming, but his father remained calm. "We can do this," his father said quietly, looking at Liam. "But we have to remember one thing. The other species have seen centuries of galactic history. They know more than we do. If we approach this with humility and respect, we have a chance." Liam nodded. The lessons were clear. It wasn't just about technology. It was about learning, working together, and finding solutions in the face of unknown challenges. As the Earth team made their way toward the station, Liam felt a mixture of fear and excitement. He had worked on the warship and had witnessed its power, but this was something different. They were being asked to solve problems they had never encountered before. And they weren't alone. Every step would be watched, and the actions of humanity would be under the microscope. The station's exterior was ancient, its hull pocked with craters from years of space debris impacts. As the Earth team docked, the air felt thick with anticipation. The team, led by his father, was joined by engineers, scientists, and diplomats from several other species. Together, they would try to breathe new life into the old station. The first challenge was understanding the station's power systems. They were archaic, based on technology no one on Earth had ever seen before. The alien engineers from other species tried to help, but their knowledge of the station was limited. It was a race against time. The station's environmental systems were failing, and the surrounding dangers were becoming more severe. Liam watched as his father worked with the other engineers, trying to make sense of the alien systems. It wasn't easy, but Liam could see the determination in his father's eyes. Every decision, Every move was critical. Hours passed, and the group managed to make some progress, but they still hadn't solved the biggest challenge: the station's core. The core was damaged, and without it functioning, the entire station would be lost. The Zorath representative, who had been overseeing the trial, watched quietly from a distance. He said little but observed everything. The pressure was mounting, but Earth's team didn't back down. Then, just as it seemed like all hope might be lost, Liam had an idea. He remembered something from his work on the warship. There was a piece of technology, a small but vital component, that could be adapted to help stabilize the station's core. It wasn't part of the original designs, but it was something Liam had tinkered with while working on his ship. It wasn't advanced by any galactic standards, but it might just be enough. Liam approached his father with the idea. His father listened carefully, then nodded. "It's worth a try. We don't have much time." Liam quickly worked to implement the idea, using the tools and resources at hand. With his father's help, they managed to fit the component into the station's core systems. It wasn't perfect, but it was working. The power began to stabilize, and the environmental systems slowly came back online. The Zorath representative stepped forward. His glowing eyes were unreadable as he inspected the work. For a long moment, there was silence. Then he nodded. "Impressive," he said. "You have passed the first test." The tension in the room melted away as the Earth team exchanged looks of relief. They had done it. Humanity had proven that it could adapt, learn, and work alongside other species. The trial wasn't over, but they had made it past the first hurdle. Liam looked out at the stars through the station's newly repaired windows. He had always dreamed of exploring them, but now humanity was on the verge of something even bigger. They had shown that they could not only survive in the galaxy, they could thrive. The Zorath representative's approval echoed in the minds of all who had worked tirelessly to restore the ancient space station. Humanity had passed the first test, but it was only the beginning. There was still more to prove, and the galaxy's gaze was upon them. Earth's participation in the trials wasn't just about technology. It was about understanding the delicate balance between power, wisdom, and cooperation. Humanity had taken its first steps onto the galactic stage, but the true test was yet to come. Liam stood beside his father, looking out at the stars. The station, now fully operational, floated silently against the backdrop of space. The dark expanse felt different now. Instead of being an empty void, it seemed to hold new possibilities. Humanity had made its mark, but the real challenge was to prove they could keep up, adapt, and truly earn their place among the stars. The second test was one that made even the most seasoned explorers uneasy: negotiation with the Nithir, a species known for their cunning and complexity. The Nithir had a reputation for being hard to work with. They were fiercely independent, known to follow their own codes and values, which often clashed with other civilizations. If Earth could work alongside them, it would show that humanity wasn't just a powerful force, but also a diplomatic one. The team from Earth gathered in the conference room aboard the Zorath flagship. The Nithir delegation arrived, their presence imposing. Their bodies were tall, with smooth black skin that shimmered in the light. Their eyes, like glowing orbs, scanned the room with cold precision. Liam's heart raced. Negotiation was something humans were still learning to do on such a grand scale, but the Nithir had made it clear they would only meet with Earth if the humans could solve a seemingly impossible problem, a trade dispute that had been going on for centuries. The task seemed overwhelming. How could humanity, so new to the galactic community, be expected to solve an issue that had eluded the galaxy's greatest minds for so long? But Liam's father, now a leading figure in the Earth delegation, remained calm. He knew that Earth's greatest strength wasn't in its military power or advanced ships. It was in the resilience of its people. Humans had a unique ability to solve problems through cooperation and creativity. This was their chance to show that. The meeting began. The Nithir delegation laid out their terms, their demands clear but cryptic. They spoke in riddles, using language that was hard to interpret. Liam, though young, had studied their culture, and he recognized the pattern in their speech. They didn't just want a solution. They wanted to see humanity's approach to problem-solving. They wanted to test whether Earth could think outside the box. As the meeting wore on, the pressure mounted. The Earth team struggled to make sense of the Nithers' requests. But then, Liam's father had an idea. He turned to the Nither representatives, his voice steady. "Perhaps the question isn't what you want, but why you want it." The room fell silent. The Nither delegation stared, their glowing eyes unreadable. Liam's father continued, "If we understand the root of the issue, the reasons behind your demands, maybe we can find a solution that works for everyone." The Nithers' leader, a tall figure with silver markings on his face, finally spoke. "You are bold, human," he said, his voice deep and resonating. "We will give you that much." For hours, the two parties exchanged ideas, frustrations, and insights. The Nither were hard to read, but Liam's father didn't back down. He asked questions, listened carefully, and refused to let the Nithers' riddles intimidate him. Slowly, the walls between the two sides began to crumble. Finally, after what seemed like an eternity, the breakthrough came. Earth's delegation offered a trade solution that not only addressed the surface-level issues, but also the deeper, more personal needs of the Nither. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start, an agreement that respected both sides' values and cultures. The Nither delegation paused. They exchanged looks, as if considering the humans before them. Then, to everyone's surprise, the leader spoke again. "You have done what no one else has done. You have shown us that Earth is not only capable of surviving the stars, but of understanding them." With that, the Nither delegation accepted the proposal. Earth had passed the second trial. But more importantly, they had demonstrated that humanity could not only adapt, but could also bridge the gaps between cultures. The galaxy was watching, and the message was clear. Humanity had earned its place in the vast expanse of space. The trials were far from over, but Earth had proven something invaluable. It wasn't just about strength or technology. It was about understanding, cooperation, and the willingness to learn and grow. As the negotiations concluded, the team returned to the Zorith flagship, weary but triumphant. Liam stood beside his father, his eyes reflecting the stars outside the window. "We did it," Liam said softly. His father smiled, placing a hand on his shoulder. "This is just the beginning, son. The galaxy is waiting, and we've shown them what humanity can do." The journey wasn't over, but Earth had passed its greatest test. The galaxy had laughed at Earth, thinking it was just another small, insignificant planet. But now, the galaxy had learned a powerful lesson. Never underestimate the potential of humanity. The stars had become a little brighter, and the universe a little smaller. For the first time, Earth truly had a place among the stars.